Welcome to the Game Professor Podcast, where the students have taken over and we profess our love and hate for all things video games. Today, Capcom has a crush on PC, and Sony walks after the honeymoon phase. US government decides that an atomic energy game is a little too realistic. Overwatch rebrand literally ends up being less than. Cheaters put one game above all others. We now have something in common with Facebook as we bring it back. And finally, Heru spews words about WoW after the recent expansion. But let's get into some recent announcements in the lecture lowdown as we start with one final update, hopefully, for Highguard. The game that everyone has talked about way too much and should never have been discussed to this degree. As the servers will permanently go offline March 12th, 2026, and despite the shutdown, a final patch was released early March to deliver completed content. So, Jeff Keighley with the tweet that he'll be expecting apologies from people in 48 hours ahead of the Highguard release. Does he now have to reply to everyone with apologies? Like, does he have to go through?
Yes. Yeah. That was actually exactly what I was gonna say. I think we, as a company or as a podcast, should at him on X and be like, so I think the whole community is waiting for your apology now.
Yeah. I did see. I'm sorry. I wish I had the name to give them credit. I did see an interesting reply that pointed out, because that was a picture of the guy in the original Jurassic Park movie, the scientist. And if anyone remembers that, the plot of that original movie, he was so sure that everything was going to succeed, and then everything ended up being a disaster with him, essentially taking the blame for everything. So it's kind of fitting that he used that character for the meme, because it basically followed the plot of the movie for him, just in game form.
The problem is that that's going to be his fallback.
Oh, it 100% is. That's going to be the excuse.
Like 100%. Like, he was like, I've been memeing this whole time. Did you not get the reference?
I was 10 steps ahead of you, peons.
Exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately. Either way, entertaining. Just to give a little bit of follow-up. So that's 45-day lifespan for the game. So officially, I think we can all say, despite the 100,000 people initially, it is an absolute bust. If your game shuts down within 2 months, I don't feel like you can have any sort of argument that it was a success in any sort of way.
I also don't think you should be able to keep any of the money that anyone gave you.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, like if you're picking up stuff expecting a game to be around and you're under 60 days,
yeah,
it doesn't really feel like you've gotten the product promised. Although I'm sure in the fine print, it definitely covers their butts, unfortunately.
Yep. Oh, yeah, almost guaranteed. But, think of the amount of microtransactions because, that game was full of microtransactions. It was their intent to basically have microtransactions be their way of making money off of that game. So,
oh yeah,
how many thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars were put in as part of that? And now that's just gone. Like, we all understand that it's a license, but we need to get off of this whole it's a license for an indeterminate amount of time bullshit.
Well, and I feel like the expectation, even if it is a license, is a minimum amount of time, right? Because even though you're renting a movie, you're expecting to have that for a certain period of time. Well, I guess
exactly.
Renting, for most people, don't understand that anymore. But if you're leasing a car, you expect it to have the car for a certain amount of time, a minimum amount of time. And not for someone to just show up and be like, well, yeah, you're in good standing and you're making all your payments, but we're taking this car back immediately.
Right, exactly.
You've had it for a month, but we need it back.
Yeah. The 45 days? Nope, sorry, we need that car back now. That's insane. But even then, back in the day when like rentals were actually a thing, it was, hey, you get this for, 7 days, 5 days, 3 days, whatever, right?
Yep.
There was a specific amount of time. And if you didn't return it afterwards, you started getting late fees. And eventually you could just ignore those late fees for long enough and just own the product. But still.
Well, and that doesn't even exist anymore, right? We talked about HP. You just get charged in perpetuity now.
Yeah, which
never own it.
Which is wild.
Oh, man. But anyways, the developer cited an inability for to hold a sustainable player base. Obviously, servers are remaining live until the official shutdown date. But like, I don't know why you would continue playing it. Like, I guess if you really loved the game, or maybe you were trying to isekai yourself into another universe by being online when the server shut down.
I was gonna go there.
But my response is, do you want to be in the Highguard universe when the server shut down?
To be honest, I don't know enough about it to give you an actual answer. I've cared that little about this whole game.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's much rather games I'd rather be in. But, beggars can't be choosers when you want to be in a fantasy universe, apparently. Sure. A final warden was added to the roster. One new weapon was included in the patch. Account level progression and skill tree features. But again, I don't like, okay, yay, you put it out so that it exists. What are we, 8 days before the shutdown? So,
yeah, like, what?
Silly for me. And I didn't put this in here earlier because it wasn't big enough news, but since we're talking about Highguard one last time, it actually ended up coming out that there were reports that they actually had received a huge amount of funding from Tencent via a third-party studio. And the money was contingent on hitting specific retention metrics, which obviously the game failed to meet. So the funding was pulled, which is now why you're seeing the mass staff layoffs with like 80% of its crew already gone. And, of course, sunsetting the game. So we have yet another Concord type situation where games are... I mean, how many studios are going to... Look, okay, I didn't make this into a full article yet, at least in here. But
sure,
Bungie has Destiny.
Yeah.
Already have the live service formula. Now, you can make an argument that Destiny is dying, but I think that's also because of Bungie's mismanagement and neglect. But at the end of the day, they have a property that people are excited about, and you could probably bring people back if you do enough of the right things. Okay?
Yeah. Destiny 3, for example.
Exactly. You look at all of these live service games, and instead of focusing on, like, let's say a Destiny 3, like you said, Bungie's going to try to do Marathon, which they have announced is going to have wipes on an extraction shooter of that type of game caliber. Like, even Arc Raiders, it's optional.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, it's like, look at all of these examples exist of these live service games absolutely biting the dust. And every now and then, there's a gem, right? You had Helldivers 2, was that last year or 2 years ago now?
I don't know.
But anyways, that's a one major success. And then, obviously, this last year in 2025, you had Arc Raiders, right? And so you do get these diamonds in the rough, and the problem is that all of these major companies go, oh, look, see, it can be successful, and then don't count the other, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 games that fail on the same breadth.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Like, so if we want to analyze it like properly, look at every live service game that has been successful, and instead of looking at the diamond in the rough that was successful despite everything, you should look at all the things that were thank you. You should look at all the things that were successful because of other things. The gigantic games that are out there, specifically live service games that have actually succeeded: World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, right? Those are the main ones for MMOs.
Yep.
Call of Duty, sort of.
I mean that's a reoccurring series that has live service in it, so like kinda.
I know. That's why I said sort of.
I mean, you would put like Counter-Strike in there.
Right. RuneScape.
Yep, RuneScape.
Counter-Strike.
Rocket League,
thank you. I think that Rocket League is also an exception to the rule.
True.
But the rest of them are not, outside of like RuneScape, sort of. But like RuneScape got into the place, right? The game, so to speak, around the same time that World of Warcraft was like being a thing, right? So it kind of took on a lot of the World of Warcraft flunkies, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But like World of Warcraft, it became successful off of the Warcraft universe. It already had 3 games prior to that, and a ton of goodwill regarding those games. Final Fantasy. It was the 14th iteration of the game. That's why it's called FF14. Guild Wars 2, it was the 2nd iteration of a very successful original MMO. The reason they made Guild Wars 2 was because they wanted to change the engine vastly. Like, all of these things, they succeeded not off of their own merits initially. They got popular because the company and the brand was already popular. Warcraft 100%. Was already popular. Final Fantasy was already popular, which is why I know a lot of people doom on the Riot MMO, and yes, I'm going to plug the Riot MMO for a second here.
But the studio has the prestige, so that's
Correct.
A little different.
The studio has the prestige, but League of Legends has a deep lore.
Sure.
Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah. The universe is
on that lore. Exactly. The universe exists, and there are people who are very invested in it already.
I mean, that's one of the reasons Destiny was popular. I mean,
exactly.
There's all of the lore around the characters. You had the story about, and I'm so sorry for getting his name because I loved him as an actor, but you had the one voice actor for one of the main characters that passed away, and so there was this whole respectful vigil thing. So there's heart and stuff in Destiny, even though I personally stopped playing it because I ended up not enjoying it. I can't say for certain if I wouldn't have picked up a Destiny 3 just to give it a go, you know, assuming that it came out and everything was fine, because I'm a little trigger shy and stuff nowadays, but assuming everything it came out and everything was fine, I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't give it a go just to get back into it and enjoy it a lot, you know, a little bit, because the universe was fun. It was fun with friends. I know it would pick it up.
Yeah.
Like, you have that built-in recognition and lore that you're talking about.
Yeah, and like, just to throw another example out there, Elder Scrolls Online. It literally succeeded off of the backs of Oblivion and Skyrim and Morrowind, right? It succeeded off of those. So that's what these companies...
Apex Legends was... technically a spin-off of Titanfall, so...
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, Apex Legends came out of friggin' nowhere.
Wow. I mean, and if we're splitting hairs, technically Marathon is in the System Shock universe. Technically, but
sure.
How many people actually know that, or even know of System Shock with how old that game is?
Right, exactly. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you even know?
No.
But yeah, so I don't know this whole. Now look, to give them credit, because I don't want to just be a doomer, gloomer, and hater. Don't at me. Well, actually, you know what? At me, and I'll respond in kind. But the open beta had decent numbers, so to give them credit, that test and server stress test that they had ended up getting some decent numbers. But the question is it going to be like Highguard, where it gets initial numbers and they drop off quickly? Or is it going to be Arc Raiders, where they get the numbers and they hold and retain the numbers? We'll see. I mean, if I have to eat my words, I'll say it here, and then you can leave comments about how I was wrong. I don't personally see it happening, but we'll find out. The beta or the server stress test was popular, so we'll see. Anyways, Highguard is dead. March 12th, so don't invest your money in it. All right, one last piece of news, and this is more of a quick one, but Nintendo is actually expanding by purchasing a studio, which doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's usually a studio that they're pretty confident in their work. And in this case, they are buying Bandai Namco Studios Singapore, with the official sale to go through April 1st. They are purchasing 80% of it, and the remaining 20% will be absorbed once operations have stabilized. It will be rebranded Nintendo Studio Singapore, so it will be official Nintendo Studio. And they do have quite a catalog of games that they have worked on, not necessarily headed. So, for example, they did work extensively on the Splatoon series, specifically 3, Mario Sports Superstars, and the new Pokemon Snap. And then they've touched on quite a few other games: Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Tekken 7, Tekken 8, Ace Combat 7, let's see, Scarlet Nexus, and then the big thing is they were the head of Metroid Prime 4 before it was scrapped. So, interesting kind of catalog here is they're not really a studio heading anything, but more of a support studio. So, maybe that will help as they are officially taken on and can assist with other Nintendo titles, or maybe they'll get to head something of their own again.
Maybe.
But that's all we have for Lecture Lowdown. And let's get into Business and Econ. Alrighty, always in over our heads, but we're still going to talk about it anyways. Capcom is transitioning to a PC-first company. What do you think of that, Heru?
So, my biggest complaint here, they already said that they were going to do it.
Yes, true.
They said this before Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, maybe the reality is that Capcom just doesn't have enough experience, right? With troubleshooting and optimizing for PC, which, I mean, you look back at their history, that's very true. I think the only thing they've really had on PC was Resident Evil, I want to say.
Well, they've been doing a lot of the remakes.
Right, exactly. But when you compare a game like Resident Evil and you compare a game like Monster Hunter, right, to one another, those are vastly different games with wildly different requirements when it comes to optimization, right? Like,
I mean, that's true.
In Monster Hunter, you have creatures that are larger than life, right?
I mean, you've had other things like Devil May Cry, Street Fighter. You did have Dragon's Dogma.
Sure. Dragon's Dogma was plagued with performance issues too.
Yes, it was.
So, I mean, I guess the problem that I have is that they've already made this announcement after World, right? After Monster Hunter World came out and it took off on PC. They were like, oh, we're going to focus development on PC and it's going to release at the same time as consoles, and we're going to make sure that it runs the same way, all that stuff, right? They already made this promise. And all the people who had swapped from a console to a PC, Wilds just completely destroyed our faith in them. So the reality is, unless they nail their next Monster Hunter game on PC, or even maybe, but I don't even think this will work, like nailing the master release of Monster Hunter Wilds might be somewhat helpful, but like it's still based on the core game. So all the optimizations that you put in a year after release, like finally we can actually play the game above 60 FPS on the top end hardware that exists.
I mean, did you see essentially the statements that they put out about Wilds? So, I mean, similar to Worlds, they basically admitted that Wilds had faced significant program complexity, performance challenges on PC, and they treated the hurdles as technical expertise that will have to be applied to the optimization of all future titles.
Yeah, I mean, that's great and all, but like, that's what QA's for.
What just in general development is for, yeah.
Right, like, test your damn game. You're a gigantic studio. You do not have the indie studio argument of not having enough money to blow on quality assurance. You have enough money. Spend it.
You're not wrong.
Like, come on. This is ridiculous.
Well,
and this, unfortunately, it's a long-running trend for a lot of AAA games. and just AAA studios in general. They've started cutting back on QA. They're letting AI do a lot of that QA and shit like that. WoW is the same problem.
Now, this doesn't really disagree with your point, but Resident Evil 9, aka Requiem, did come out and was good and wasn't plagued with the same issues, but it's also a more linear game.
Right. More linear, generally humanoid-based creatures.
I mean, I'm not sure the humanoid thing really matters with like some of the zombie monster type stuff, but I think the point is there's not necessarily the same rendering power needed. You know, you're talking about the open world with a lot of creatures and stuff versus the more linear cinematic experience.
It's also physics, though, right? Humanoid-based creatures, they have a pretty cut and dry set of physics that has been mastered for, probably decades at this point. However, monsters come in all shapes and sizes. There's four-legged creatures with wings, just two wings, right? There's water-based creatures that have, fins and tails and shit like that do all kinds of random crap, right? There's all kinds of things. And when you have a physics-based engine, which is what the RE engine is, like it is a physics-based engine, that's just why they made it. And that's what they make all of their games on now.
And to be clear here, it's not RE because it's the Resident Evil engine. I don't remember the actual name.
I don't remember the exact name.
It's not either. Resident Evil.
But I know that is what everybody thinks that it is. And myself included, because I don't remember what the hell the other one is. And every time that someone says RE engine, I'm just like, oh yeah, Resident Evil. Every time. But yeah, like my point is that there's more polygons in the average monster in Monster Hunter than there is a individual humanoid-based creature in a Resident Evil game. So that optimization
for the Moon engine, apparently.
Huh?
I don't know. That's
why
that's what
is it called the RE engine then instead of the RM engine?
I don't know, man.
Or
maybe it's the Reach engine, I guess. I don't know. That's just the initial search. So if I'm wrong, put it in the comments and let us know what it actually is.
Anyways, yeah, enough ranting.
This comes from Capcom hitting the 50% revenue split milestone, meaning that 50% of their earnings come from PC sales.
Yeah. Because PC is where it's at.
Yeah, because, that you're not talking about 50% versus PlayStation. You're talking about 50% versus everything else. Nintendo, Sony, and Xbox. If anyone's buying an Xbox. Anyways, but that's a pretty big milestone. And so, considering that it comes from one platform, it does make sense that they would make it the lead platform if that's where people are buying your game. Now, hopefully they can get their stuff together for the more open world physics-based games so that you don't, turn away your audience and lose some of those sales. It is good to see that Resident Evil Requiem, which is essentially your first major launch after Wilds, is very successful and good and not broken. So there's at least a good sign there that you have a base level of competence. Now just expand that to your other titles. So hopefully that works. Their digital sales, interesting enough, too, are like 93.9% digital.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
It's also a little wild.
And
this came from reports that people were actually so excited about this game that they actually sold out of like physical copies in certain places, just because obviously they weren't printing or shipping them because most of their sales are digital.
Yeah, because why would they?
Yeah.
And it sucks because digital or physical copies are useless anyways, right? You don't own the game still.
For PC, yes.
No, even for like PlayStation and Xbox.
There are still PlayStation and Xbox copies of games that exist physically on the disc, even though they require updates or downloading to the console. But you even look at the Nintendo Switch 2, which the cartridges are basically just keys to download. Not all, but most of them are just keys to download the games now.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, which is what PC has been doing for decades.
Yes, it is. But that's kind of like the biggest problem that I have is that especially on like PlayStation 4, for example, and I don't know how it is on PS5, but I know on PS4, when you purchased a game physically, not only did it not exist on the disc in any way, shape, or form, you still downloaded over 100 gigabytes of data off of the internet, but now you also bottleneck yourself.
Though, that's not every game.
No, it's not. It's not every game, but it is a lot of games. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to be clear here, though, because you made it sound like that was every game.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's not every game, but the games that I'm referring to, now you have effectively leashed yourself to this destructible copy of your game that is like, you just have to hold on to it.
I mean, yeah.
Because you have to have it in the PlayStation to be able to play it, despite the fact that you already purchased it.
Yeah,
you already put the code in.
Keep in mind, we already talked about it. These are leases.
I'm aware. So if I'm leasing it, can I sell it off to somebody else who can then lease it for, like, continue leasing it?
Well, no, because you never own it.
Okay. Yeah. I see.
No, the dealer gets its game back.
Oh, it just goes into the abyss.
Just to throw a few numbers at you for Requiem, did hit a peak of 344,000 people on Steam, which is the record for any Resident Evil released on PC, with Resident Evil 4 Remake being the next closest at 168,000. The game sold 5 million units in 5 days, which is the absolute fastest for Capcom, as Resident Evil 4 was 5 million in 3 months, the remake. So, yeah, the game's popular. They hit it out of the park. It actually outsold day one sales on PlayStation over Black Ops 7. That's also partially because Black Ops 7 wasn't necessarily the best game in the series.
Right.
And has a pretty high Metacritic score, so this one was a really huge success for Capcom. So hopefully they can channel this into going, hey, if we make a good game, we'll get good praise, and people will buy it instead of people buying it and then also crapping on us.
Yep. Exactly.
Man, so...
Insert Shia LaBeouf, just do it meme.
Just do it! Do it! However, PlayStation has decided that PC is not for them. And as of March 4th, a report from Bloomberg is saying that Sony will no longer plans to release its major first-party single-player titles on PC in any way or form. So no delayed releases, no nothing. They will be console exclusive for an indefinite period of time. Specifically, it's basically already been shown through this report that Ghosts of Yotei and an upcoming action title called Saros from the Returnal developers were going to have PC ports, and those have been fully scrapped. So
it's a bad call.
I mean, yeah. Now, I will say that there is merit in having exclusives for your platform. There is a reason that people buy Nintendo Switches, and a good chunk of that reason is to play exclusive Nintendo titles. However, I think Nintendo is in a much different place with the huge backlog of Nintendo titles and libraries, that the only legal way to play those games is on a Nintendo.
I think backlog was right.
I mean, it is clogged with a lot of games back there. I have no desire to own a PlayStation, especially because I can play the games on PC. I mean, that is a fact. Now, the question is the desire to play those PlayStation exclusives enough to drop the extra money to own a PlayStation to only play those exclusives? And now I plan on probably putting together something about exclusives and the amount of exclusives to talk about next week, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But I don't think that there are enough titles. And I think Sony's view of having the first-party exclusives is a little skewed, because they have talked about numbers where this game didn't do as well on PC. Well, yes, because you didn't release it day and day. You released it on PlayStation, and either the game was spoiled, or people saw enough of it, or too much time had passed and the interest had gone. Right? you literally have Capcom as an example of showing how successful PC can play if you give people the game at the same time, because it's new. They want to play it at that time. It's not old hat. Look, if a movie came out and it was only available to be shown on PlayStations, right? And it had been out for 2 years, then you released it on other streaming platforms, yes, you would get people that watched it, but you wouldn't have even close to the same numbers if you released it on all streaming platforms at the same time instead of just PlayStation. I mean, it's just, and the interest, the spoilers, it just comes out. And they also point at some of the sequels, the first Spider-Man versus the second Spider-Man game. The second Spider-Man game was basically a reskin of the first with a few new features. Came out way too close and wasn't as interesting or wasn't reviewed nearly as well as the first. So basing your numbers off of that is also ridiculous. Yeah, this game didn't do as well. Yeah, well, because the sequel didn't do as well in general. So I don't know what you're asking here. So the whole thing is just ridiculous to me. Again, there is merit in having exclusives to attract people to your platform. You will get some sales from that, but the question is, are those sales and the buying into the platform enough to offset the millions of less copies, potentially millions, less copies that sold as opposed to releasing it day and day? Because again, Capcom, 50% of Capcom sales are on PC. So only time will tell, we'll see, but it looks like PC gamers aren't going to be getting any of those sweet PlayStation single-player experiences anymore. You're already looking at the Wolverine game that's coming out from Naughty Dog not being released on PC, the somewhat controversial Intergalactic Heretic Prophet, also permanently PlayStation exclusive, so we'll see how well those games do comparatively. However, just so you know, Heru, you are fine. Okay, Death Stranding series is not included in these because the title is published by Sony, not owned by Sony. So,
you were talking about the games, not me specifically. Got it.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Death Stranding games. So you don't have to worry. Your Death Stranding games will continue to come out on PC.
Honestly, my whole thoughts on all of this can effectively be summed up as Sony is just following in Oni-san's footsteps.
Oh, yeah?
That's exactly what they're doing, right? Sony, Japanese company. Nintendo, Japanese company. They're just trying to follow that same model because it's what they know and it's what they expect to work. It may continue to work in Japan. It will fail in the rest of the world, just as Nintendo does.
Yep. I think, now, again, they say single player, so this will not necessarily apply to multiplayer games, but I think there's a lot of games that you can look at that were released day and day that would not have been nearly as popular if they didn't come out on PC.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's just so... What's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's just so much more versatility with games on PC in terms of like everyone being able to record easily, upload it easily, edit footage easily, and no matter what, at the end of the day, mods are free advertising. Stuff that happens with mods, people go, wow, this thing's crazy, this is cool, this is interesting, this is sexy. Anything that happens in the mods is free advertising for people to pick up your game. You could say that you're concerned about piracy on PC, but are the people that are competent enough to pirate and mod your game not going to figure out, a way to do that with some other game as opposed to buying a PlayStation and then buying your game on PlayStation?
Right.
That audience isn't going to go do all of that.
Yeah, the content at the end of the day is still on the hard drive of the PlayStation. If they want to crack it, all they have to do is figure out the encryption. Once that encryption
are out there, so you can just have a modded PlayStation.
So if once the encryption is broken, it might as well just be a PC game. And that's the problem. All they are doing is shooting themselves in the foot, and I have said the same thing about Nintendo for months on this podcast. Nintendo being an exclusive, only our platform BS company is the reason that I hate them. And the second, I'm serious, I will flip-flop so fast if they're like, we're releasing things on PC now. Sick. Yeah. You now have a new fan. Congratulations. But until then, I think that you are overcharging for your console that is actually weaker performance-wise than my phone, and that's insane.
Yeah. I think the majority of people that play PC games, and again, not all, but the majority aren't going to run out and buy a new console to play your exclusives. Now, I'm not saying that they wouldn't eventually pick one up on a good sale down the line and then just get all your exclusive games for cheap because they've been out for years at that point. But that's also not a huge influx of revenue at that point either. That's not what you're looking for. You're trying to get the full new release PlayStation sales, the full new release PlayStation full price game sales. Yeah. And these people aren't going to do that.
Well, and the problem, too, in my opinion, is that, yeah, sure, you can do that, but if this is where they're going, who's to say they don't just make every single first-party game an always online game, and then when they release the next console, shut off the servers? There's nothing stopping them from doing this.
True.
So
I mean, there's nothing stopping them from doing that on PC as well, but
sure, you're not wrong, but the difference is that on PC we can just break it, because that's what we do. I mean, like we can eventually do it on PlayStation as well. But my point is that if that's what you want, if you want people to be able to play your games while it is consistent, you're effectively going to have to make everyone hate you. And until you do that, all you're doing is shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, and once you do that, you're shooting yourself in the head.
Yeah. And less people to talk about your games, get excited about your games. I mean, you and I both have titles that we would have never played if they had stayed on PlayStation. You would have never played Death Stranding, and I would have never played Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, it just...
Which is hilarious, too, because I own a PlayStation 4.
I mean, fair. Like,
but I still waited to buy it on PC.
I was going to say, like, and did you buy that PlayStation 4 new? Like, brand new when the console first launched?
Yeah, I bought I bought 2 PS4 Pros for the release of Monster Hunter World.
I mean, sure, but that game's now definitely on the PC, so you don't need a console for that.
Yeah. It wasn't a first-party Sony game. That's kind of the point.
So, yeah. It does make me sad because Horizon Zero Dawn is one of my favorite gaming experiences in the last...
I don't believe that's first-party Sony.
Horizon Zero Dawn? Yeah. I'm not saying it Sony owns the exclusive rights for it. So I don't know about developer, but Sony does have the exclusive rights for Horizon Zero Dawn.
But it's on PC.
Well, yeah, but so is God of War. They're just not doing it anymore.
Oh, the God of War community is going to be pissed.
Yeah, but again, yeah, they were releasing these games on PC.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about numbers. They were making billions of dollars. Like, we've talked about them making billions of dollars off of PC.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, especially with potentially a PlayStation 6 in a few years, apparently Sony is worried about, what's happening to Xbox happening to PlayStation. And so they're trying to, in their minds, retain value by having these exclusives stay exclusive. But I don't think they understand the majority of the audience that was buying these games on PC. That's not going to necessarily transfer to value and revenue gained, especially when you're losing an entire audience to talk about your game.
Right, but not even just that. Like, what Xbox did, they did to themselves. And they did it on purpose. They were transitioning their entire model, their entire financial model, from a hardware and first-party system to Game Pass. Like, they transitioned their whole fucking financial shit over to Game Pass. That's what they intended on doing.
Yeah, well, and other consoles, right? Like, they're releasing Gears of War and Halo and stuff on PlayStation. Yeah, they've retained no value because they've given it up completely. The ecosystem for the console is struggling. Game Pass can be used anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the good games in general, right? Like, double whammy, you have no titles that are exclusive to your console essentially anymore that are good. They've been struggling heavily, and everything else is available everywhere else, and your hardware wasn't the best either. So, and you're the most expensive. Like, there's all kinds of errors here.
Like, so Steam is the largest gaming ecosystem in the world.
No.
I think we can both agree on that, regardless of being able to back it up with numbers or not.
No, I mean, it's true. The hardware power might be a different story compared to the entirety of everyone that owns a PlayStation.
Yes.
But, yes,
I was getting
the
there.
largest gaming community, well, I mean, technically mobile, but the largest quote-unquote hardcore gaming community is PC, for sure.
Yeah. Real gamers. So Steam is the largest gaming platform, in my opinion, outside of mobile.
Numbers for you specifically, because I actually remember this off the top of my head.
Okay.
I just looked at these today. PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 2 has the highest selling console of all time at just shy of 160 million.
Okay.
The Nintendo Switch was like 155 million, and I believe the PlayStation 5 was like 120 or something.
Okay.
Maybe around there, maybe a little less. But point being, there's definitely more than even at the highest end 150 million PC gamers out there.
Right. Like Steam players specifically, I guarantee is more than 150 million. If they've bought a single game on Steam, you could consider them a Steam gamer.
Yeah. That log in at least once a year, 100% I guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. Now, my point is, and where I was going with this, is that it's going to get that much worse when the Steam machine comes out.
I mean, if it comes out.
True. But I don't see it not coming out.
I mean, it depends on the whole RAM and hardware situation. That's a whole different discussion that we've talked about, and B, we'll talk about again.
Regardless of whether or not it comes out soon.
And maybe with a different configuration, we'll see.
Yeah. Like I said, regardless of whether it comes out soon, I think Steam will make a Steam machine, whether or not it releases in 2027 or 2030. Right? My point is that when that happens, Microsoft already recognizes the problem. That's how they're pivoting Xbox. They're pivoting Xbox to be effectively a optimized gaming machine that runs on a simplified Windows OS.
True.
That is exactly what it is.
But if it offers the exact same performance as a regular PC, they would probably not be successful. It would have to be an insanely good price to performance value for it to succeed, because A, you are struggling with your brand at the moment, so you need to get people to buy in, and the way that you would do that is the price per performance. I think that's the concern that Sony has, right? They're not trying to compete with PC specifically. They're trying to make sure that their console holds the value, as opposed to Xbox pivoting to be the entirety all-in-one platform for hopefully good performance to value.
I'm just waiting for another pivot in 5 years.
I mean, yeah, it could potentially happen. I mean, here's the thing. I think Sony, one of two ways. Just release day and day, get your money, get your bag, be done with it. Yeah. Keep it exclusive to consoles, to your PlayStation. Don't put it out on any other consoles. And PC, it's a whole different thing. Just put it out on PC. Outside of that, if you truly want it to be console exclusive, then just do the thing where you release the game and then you do a Game of the Year edition in a year, and that you re-release that Game of the Year edition on your digital storefront with all the DLCs, and then also that version comes to PC. And again, you're done. You're a year later. The people that were waiting were going to wait. And here's the thing. You can sell that for full price on PC, as opposed to doing like a Game of the Year edition for a discounted price on your own console, because you've already tried to sell it to people.
Yeah.
But I think we've probably exhausted this conversation topic. It's very disappointing. I'm sad about the games that I'll miss out on. No, I'm not going to buy PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 6 to play any of them. I mean, it would literally have to be... I'm not even for GTA 6. I'm not even going to get a console to play GTA 6, which is a console exclusive, for, however long, a year or two until they decide to bring it out on PC. So there's really not anything that's going to get me to buy a console. Alrighty. Anyways, Let's move on to lab work. All right, lab work, where we analyze some recent releases, or in this case, a released unreleased game. As the U.S. government has determined that the game Nuclear Design Bureau was a little too close to real life, and has actually made it subject to federal export controls, meaning that the game and the game code is designated as a classified and or dangerous blueprint.
So this leads me to questions. Who did they pay? Who did they hire? And how the hell did they get that close?
So, nothing specifically to the U.S. military, but let's get into it. So, the game was effectively blocked from standard distribution due to its classification as sensitive technical software rather than mere entertainment. And the classification stems from the game's hardcore simulation of real-world nuclear physics, which the Bureau of Industry and Security deems a potential security risk. So the game, Nuclear Design Bureau, and its developer, Design Bureau KB-11, which, if any history buffs or anyone that's watched Chernobyl on HBO will know, is an homage to Soviet nuclear reactors, is a 2D sandbox engineering simulator. The game simulates complex physics, including hydrodynamics, neutron transport, K-effective algorithms, and thermonuclear fusion. So its gameplay loop, players act as the chief engineer of a Soviet-style facility tasked with assembling devices from a warehouse of dangerous materials to meet specific yield targets and mission directives. The developer previously noted on community forums that the game utilizes X-ray ray tracing and accurate chain reaction behavior modeled in real time.
I mean, that's impressive. And it's disappointing that we'll just now never get it.
I mean, we may get it. There's an appeal in here. We'll get into it. But, so basically, the BIS, the Bureau of Industry and Security, regulates dual-use technology, so they're items that have both civilian and military applications. And apparently this game is close enough to real life that it falls under that. So, under Category 0 of the Commerce Control List, the software designed for development or production of nuclear-related items is strictly controlled, which is why this game is being targeted. As of yesterday, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the DOC have introduced new rules that tighten the grip on software simulating fusion and fission, which is providing the basis for this legal block. So basically, the game is stuck in legal purgatory. You can still find the listing on Steam. However, you can't download anything. So it's unable to be purchased and or downloaded. Those buttons have been disabled. Users who already owned early access of the game and copies of it report that it will still launch and play, but the cloud connected things like physics isn't functioning correctly, so the game isn't necessarily fully playable. And the developer, KB11, released a brief statement on their Discord yesterday and confirmed that they are in active dialogue with the BIS, and they claim that the issue isn't the entertainment value, but rather the specific X-ray ray tracing and those K-effective algorithms, which the DOC argues could be used to optimize real-world secondary stage compression in thermonuclear devices. Meaning that with ray tracing, they've essentially, on a 2D game, produced a model which could help people around the world developing nuclear programs create more effective nuclear reactors.
So game developers succeeded where nuclear scientists have failed.
On the public side, yes, because we don't know what exists behind the scenes and isn't available to the public. But yes, on the public side, without being, sucked up by the government processes of any country, these people, developed apparently a real game. It simulates real nuclear type atomic interactions.
Somebody on their payroll has to be a nuclear scientist of some kind.
Well, specifically, most likely Soviet, USSR, or Russian, as there's so many references to various Russian nuclear programs and or places, including like the Arzamaz 16 in Surov, which was the USSR's first center for developing nuclear weapons. The Kurchatov Institute, which is the game's setting, is a real high-level nuclear research facility. So, yeah, some Russian or USSR scientist is clearly involved in this game.
Can I go, like, deep tinfoil hat here for a second?
Go for it, do it.
This is Russia's plan. Okay, that's the initial basis of this tinfoil hat theory, okay? Like you said, there's way too much accurate information here, way too many references. So my tinfoil hat theory is that Russia can't win a war. So instead, they're going to make it so that no one else can either.
You're just saying they're trying to put out all the nuclear secrets out there for everybody to learn so the world destroys itself?
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're saying this is, I mean, are we sure it's even the Russian government? Because I doubt Putin wants the world to die. He's probably a very, self-loving individual that would probably like to keep living. So is this maybe some disgruntled anarchist that's like, that's it, the world demise?
Honestly, that's better. I like that better. But I think at the end of the day, yes, nuclear physics is a highly controlled field of science, but at the same time, it's still science. Let it happen.
I mean, I can own a cannon.
Yes, you can.
Oh, man. Alrighty. I think this is amazing. I legitimately wish I could go buy this game right now. Yeah. Just to see what it's about. And I doubt it's necessarily something I would get into and enjoy. But just because it's apparently super real, I feel like I need to play it at least once.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, if you were going to get into a game like this and you actually did enjoy it, I would recommend playing Oxygen Not Included.
I mean, fair. I've definitely heard of the game, so.
Yeah. Because, I swear you need a nuclear science degree to understand the amount of crap in that game.
Fair. Could I combine this game with Kerbal Space Program and we could create a nuclear-powered spaceship?
Same company, I think.
Oh, man. One last thing I do want to, again, point out is it is mind-boggling to me that they have repurposed ray tracing for X-rays, and it is apparently super effective in mirroring real world. Which, I mean, okay, sweet. I mean, sure, I crap on ray tracing performance and stuff, but in this case, it's being used to literally mimic real world scenarios, and apparently it's good. That kind of just throws me through a loop. I mean, obviously they always looked good in games, but apparently it's close to real world physics.
Yeah, I mean, ray tracing has been, I want to say, the first iteration of a game engine based technology that actually mimics real world. So,
I mean,
leaning on that to continue doing more things. I mean, it's sad to me that this innovation of ray tracing is just going to get lost if this gets bricked.
That's true. Or it might become some underground pirated software.
Hell
now, to
yeah,
be
give it
clear
to
here,
me.
you're talking about something that legitimately acts like real life. You're not talking about like PhysX or Hairworks, which mimics and tries to give the illusion. This like apparently legitimately real life.
Well, and ray tracing is one of those things that it's not a mimicry. It's not something that we created to look like real life.
Yeah.
It is an algorithm that is literally rays in real life. Like it's rays in real life dissected into an algorithm and put into a fucking game. That's exactly what it is. So ray tracing has always been a super cool thing to me. I've just never really cared about it because it doesn't improve the game quality enough for me to give a damn.
Well, except in this case.
Well, yeah, sure, but in this case, it's not even doing the same thing that ray tracing was designed for.
That's true. That's fair. X-rays and light rays are different wavelengths, if you
weird.
want to say. Anyways. Yeah, super cool. I love this story. This is insane. I love these types of things. So maybe if they get out of super classified potential security risk jail, we can try the game at some point. But speaking of interesting coding things happening, let's get into shop class. Alrighty, we head down to shop class to take a look at tech tools, specifically Overwatch, the rebrand, having a problem with people being able to crash games using just the chat. So, Harold, did you see this at all pop up?
No.
So, on February 25th, players discovered a critical vulnerability where spamming the less than character in the match or team text chat would instantly crash the entire server lobby.
Hell yes.
So, I mean, this would obviously boot everybody back to the main menu. No errors messages were generated, and the match history basically ceased to exist, as if the whole thing never happened. That's how bad of a crash that was occurring.
This is perfect. I can have 100% win rate.
Yeah. Well, that was the problem, is that if you were losing, you could just go, fine, done with this.
Yep,
Spam
exactly.
less than. Yeah, my score is less than you. But
that's
okay.
funny.
So, the technical root of the problem. Blizzard hasn't released an official full post-mortem, but the community consensus is that it's a string pairing error.
Parsing.
Thank you. String parsing error. As the UI engine likely interpreted the less than as the beginning of an HTML or XML tag. So, an injection style bug, causing the chat to hang and overflow when receiving the massive string of characters.
So this is dumb. What did they do from Overwatch to Overwatch 2 to Overwatch new? What did they do in the game's code that made it break like this? Because I know for a fact this wasn't an issue in Overwatch and Overwatch 2.
I honestly don't know. Because a little further on too, I think it's noted that so right here, interestingly, players found that the new hero Jetpack Cat was unaffected by the initial chat-induced lag due to having a unique UI overlay for its flight mechanics.
Oh my god. My programming brain has figured out why this is a thing, but I have no way to put it into words. I don't have the level of programming knowledge to be able to pull it back down to layman's terms, but I have enough knowledge to understand what the hell happened. That's hilarious to me.
You don't want to try to dumb it down for the rest of us at all?
I don't think I could. I don't even know where to start.
Well, you can think about that while I go through some other things. So within hours of the exploit going viral, Blizzard disabled all text chat functionality for obvious reasons. And because Overwatch backends pings and hero voice lines, also obviously group invites through the same hidden chat protocol, disabling text chat basically broke the communication wheel and your ability to join with friend groups. So none of that worked while the chat was disabled. A hotfix was deployed about 5 hours later, and as of March 4th, the game is stable, but developers did warn of specific high-frequency combinations of symbols that could cause localized client lag, so they're trying to keep an eye out for secondary exploits. But, interestingly enough, during the hours where the chat was disabled, the community took to Reddit, calling the bug an accidental upgrade, claiming the game was now more peaceful than ever. Without the ability to flame anyone with pings or chat, apparently people enjoyed the game a little more.
That is some top tier shit.
I would point out for anyone that did enjoy the chat disabled, you could just turn that off in general.
Yep, you absolutely can.
Oh man. One other bug during this time is that a specific Valentine's Day skin caused Soldier 76 to go invisible as well, which was fun.
Nice. Well, I mean, that do be how it works. So I'm confused. They said that Jetpack Cat was not affected because of a unique UI element. There is nothing initially that I can see different between like Pharah's UI and Jetpack Cat's UI.
Well, I
might be coded different.
I do know that I think can't Jetpack Cat slingshot people was like one of the new abilities, like pull people along, slingshot people. So,
that could be true. If that changes their UI, has some kind of like a transitionary state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah,
I just found this funny. I just saw it.
Did you see it? Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say I felt like I saw that on the game, but I mean, is this one of the few times where just text can allow people to get out of a game they're losing?
I mean, yeah. That's true of like League of Legends too.
Did they have an error similar at one point?
No, but like you can use the in-game chat to make someone rage quit. Theoretically, right? So it's a similar thing.
Could you use the in-game chat to force everybody to quit? Because
no.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah. I just found this one interesting and fun.
I've been thinking about it. Okay. This character, the less than symbol, right? It must have been used as a development tool to force inject scripts into the game. Probably as part of testing, right?
I'm sure.
And then it was probably pushed out in a build that shouldn't have been. Or it has always been there and somehow no one has found it. I doubt the latter. I'm leaning on the former. And at the end of the day, this was probably used to enter like dev mode and stuff like that on testing environments. And not necessarily like just a blank less than sign, right? But less than followed by some command, right? Similar to how we would do like slash commands on the console in other games, right?
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me because they did the reskin. So it would make sense that while they were testing and doing all of that, someone screwed up and that build of the game came out. And this is essentially the way that they were using console commands as a developer.
Yes.
So
now the question remains, why would spamming that in the chat break the server. The reason that I can think of, and the reason that clicked in my head, was it was an open line of communication. If you've ever been in a command prompt window, and you hit enter over and over and over again, right? It gives you an additional line, right?
Sure.
However, if you're actually typing and you put a pipe or something like that in there, it'll let you go down to the next line. More specifically, this is more common in a PowerShell window, as that allows you to have multiple lines of text as code. So the end of a PowerShell line, baseline, ends in a greater than sign. So it makes me think, especially given the fact that Microsoft owns Blizzard, that someone was like, oh yeah, we'll just be cute about it and we'll do the opposite and have that be the less than symbol. So my thought is that they would submit the less than symbol and then you'd send it. And now the game on the back end, the server on the back end, is waiting for your next line of code. But then it doesn't ever receive it. So now you've told it to say, now wait for another line of code. Now wait for another line of code. Now wait for another line of code. Over and over and over and over again, until eventually it's hung up all of the processing power of the server, just sitting on effectively a loop of tell me what next.
Yep.
Right? And then eventually it just crashes, and as some kind of failsafe, it just hard reboots. Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's where my programming brain went, and that's the best way I can put it in layman's terms.
I think you did a great job. I think that makes perfect sense to me.
Am I right? Who knows? Do I find that thought process and that logic hilarious? Yes.
So it's official. Overwatch is less than Overwatch 2.
True. It's also less than original Overwatch.
So we're less than crash. Anyways, let's get into civics and sociology. All right. Taking a look at some of the gaming institutions, specifically those around cheaters. So, a new 2026 study by Surfshark reveals that Call of Duty players have the biggest rate of cheat-related searches in history. Interestingly enough, 66 out of every 1,000 players are searching for terms like aimbot, wallhack, and cheat. And Rocket League was second place on that list with 59 out of 1,000, followed by Rainbow Six Siege with 53 out of 1,000. And I mean, is this specifically people trying to get a competitive edge, or is it a pressure because these are some of the largest communities and they tend to be competitive? Well, interestingly enough, Activision did respond back, issuing a statement arguing that the study is fundamentally flawed because it tracks Google searches and not actual in-game data. The sensational headlines don't fix the issue. Consistent action does. With Activision claiming that the high search volume might just indicate a large, curious player base or people looking for news about cheating rather than actually looking for cheats, which could be true. But I do think that if you have searches about cheats, there probably is at least somewhat of a correlation between the people that are actually going to find those cheats and using those cheats.
I mean, I would have to agree. The thing that actually surprises me the most is Rocket League being up there.
I know. That one did kind of surprise me.
Like, how? What would you do in that game that wouldn't be immediately obvious by their anti-cheat software? That, like, how would you cheat in that game?
I mean, it's so much more complex than being able to cheat in a shooter, too, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, because, like, you can't make your car faster because there's a set number, and if you go faster than that, the server recognizes it and goes, nope, banned. You can't make it accelerate faster, same thing. It's a hard set number. Set it any higher, banned. Can't make it jump higher because set number, banned, right? There's just like so many little things
to other players, because unlike a shooter, you're having to score on someone playing goalie, so you have to take into account the other car that's trying to block your shot and the car that's still in net trying to defend the net. So you're talking about more levels of complexity than just knowing where people are on the map and then having good aim.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, some other interesting things from this as well, with the highest community integrity being MOBA games, with only 0.3 searches per 1,000 people. Valorant was the least searched shooter for cheats at only 1 out of 1,000. And interestingly enough, even CS2 had less searches at 9 out of 1,000 than Arc Raiders, which was at 10. So now that could just be that all the CS2 players have cheats already.
True.
Which is bitter. Anyways, funnily enough, too, the country with the highest searches for cheating per capita is Sweden.
That's not what I thought was going to come out of your mouth.
Yep. So, those ridiculous Vikings decided they needed more of an advantage in their conquests and, battles for valor. And apparently, honor doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean that's maybe it's their ping. They're just trying to compensate for their ping. That's what I'm gonna go with.
They are one of the earliest countries to adopt esports as a competitive scene, so this could be a result of that. I did mention earlier Activision claiming that it searches and that some of it's pressure to do well, and that could be the case when it's considered an actual sport. I mean, doping and cheating in actual high school sports is a thing, so maybe,
it absolutely is.
Maybe that's where it comes from.
What's really funny to me is that it doesn't surprise me that Call of Duty is at the top of this list. There is a term that a lot of veteran gamers use when it comes to gamers who strictly play Call of Duty.
Okay.
And that's Call of Duty gamer.
Well,
right?
Call of Duty fanboys.
Yeah, there's that too. That's the more the deeper slur, I suppose. But like at the end of the day, Call of Duty came to PC, right?
Yep.
You've already lost.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Like for a really long time, the reason that Call of Duty was one of the most popular shooters in the industry is because it was hard locked to consoles.
Now, to be fair, there was still cheating that happened. But
there is absolutely still cheating. It's just significantly harder. Yeah, it is significantly harder to actually do any kind of cheating on a console.
And I would argue a lot harder on the older consoles.
Yes, even more so.
As they become more and more PCs, it becomes a little bit more different. But I also think that some of this, and now this is my personal bias on this, though, I also think that the heavy amount of aim assist that controllers have in Call of Duty specifically, which they toned down in the most recent release, definitely would have contributed to this as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're seeing people that are like, well, I need to compete with the other platforms, so they make excuses in their head and,
Yep. I am very proud of the fact that League of Legends is the lowest on this list, and that World of Warcraft is nowhere to be found.
I mean, you're not wrong. I don't know if looking for necessarily specific bots as opposed to cheats.
Yeah,
or other
you wouldn't
things
use the
would be
term cheat.
Yeah.
In WoW, you would use the term bot or botting.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we'd have to ask Surfshark to expand their search and see if botting comes up for WoW enough.
True. Which it probably would.
But for the moment, you're right. There is nothing.
But I am also aware of the fact that there absolutely were cheats to World of Warcraft in the past, namely in its PvP section. The number of times I've actually encountered them is pretty low, but I have seen them where you literally just watch someone teleport across the map. It's insane. I mean, you're literally just like, I can't do anything about that, Blizzard, please.
I mean, interestingly enough, PUBG is still on this list. And I remember back in the day when I was playing PUBG, the people that could just kill everybody from one position on the map, from across the map.
Oh my God.
Those days were wild.
Yep. There's another shooter out there. I don't even remember what the hell it was called. But I remember like there was a cheat that you could initiate, and like its activation conditions were literally laying prone on the ground with your knife out and just swinging your blade. And it would just one tap the entirety of the server. Not even just the enemy team. Your team too.
Just the entire server?
Yes. It would just one tap the entire server, which is hilarious because friendly fire wasn't a thing in that game, which is why it was so obvious that it was a hack.
Well, if you know what game Heru is talking about, please comment and put it down below so that he doesn't have to continue to rack his brain to figure it out. We might have to look it up after this anyways. But if you know, put it down there in the comments. All right, please. I think we'll get to the last section, free period, before we get into the WoW soapbox. Finally, we're talking about Facebook and the patent for the digital afterlife that is just so sad and so depressing, really, is what it is. So Meta was granted, this isn't filed, granted a U.S. patent titled Simulation of a User of a Social Networking System Using a Language Model. Now, the one thing that isn't in that title is it's essentially for people that are quote-unquote absent, aka left the platform, no longer using it, or just straight up deceased. Which is just a grotesque abuse of AI in my own mind. So they're basically using a large language model, LLM, AI, to simulate a person's behavior, tone, and posting style when they are, quote, absent, which applies specifically to users that are on a long break or deceased. The AI would train on the user's specific history, including past posts, comments, direct messages, chat history, like reactions, and voice messages. And once trained, the digital clone could post new status updates in the user's voice, reply to comments and direct messages, and simulate audio and video calls with followers or friends.
I hate this, first off. We should not get rid of death. It's bad. I don't know a better way to put that. Trying to fake life is bad enough, but now you're not faking life. Now you are trying to continue life infinitely. What I would love to see, mostly as a meme, is two of these bots going at each other. Just to know. Mean,
that's the thing, right? This would keep the social networking platforms' numbers up. It would keep the engagements up. It would get them more revenue and ads, as seemingly there's more people that exist on the platform to interact with those ads. And
no shot.
Obviously, critics point out that these dead users would basically generate content, interactions, and revenue income. Like, because, I mean,
that's deep.
Like, they're not going to label a platform as person's name dead, because that would defeat the purpose. I'm not saying they should. I'm saying they wouldn't, most likely, because it would obviously defeat the purpose of keeping up the engagement and the illusion that the person still is alive and exists.
Right.
At least not without someone forcing them to do this. I mean, people need to grieve. Like, it's a cycle of emotional growth, and needing to move on is for people to be able to grieve. And if you've lost your mother or best friend, and all of a sudden
or partner,
they're like reaching out to you beyond the grave through Facebook. I mean, oh my gosh, like I just can't. Like I couldn't deal with that. That just sounds
there has to be a way that this can't be implemented. Like, is it a scenario where the implementation is not opt-out? Like, is it possible to have that scenario? I think it is.
I mean, there are things like copyright in owning your own likeness.
Right.
Now, the question becomes, if the LLM is trained off of publicly posted things which you don't have a right to,
right,
then do they have a right to continue this person's existence in a fake manner based off of the publicly available things? I mean, it's obviously a gray area legally, not morally. Legally, it's a gray area. I do also think that if this were to come out, I think people would get enough of their representatives and senators on board to quash it pretty quick. I think for most people would find this obviously detestable, which is also
absolutely
why they've said they have no plans to move forward, but that does little to...
if there's money to be had, they'll do it.
Yep. To be clear here, Microsoft patented a similar deadbot system in 2021, but scrapped it after leadership just deemed it disturbing, which obviously...
I mean, what did you expect?
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously some Black Mirror type of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's the whole storyline in Cyberpunk 2077 about, the Soul Killer and Artifact, which is a major plot point of that game. Which, keep in mind, 2027 is a dystopian, right? It's meant to be a dystopian, not a model for what we want society to be.
Right, exactly. This brings up a different thought process for me. It's a TV series that it only really got like 2 seasons, but it's Altered Carbon.
Oh, I loved Altered Carbon.
I loved it too.
Great.
I'm so mad it didn't continue. But anyways, it's that, right? Yeah. It's extending life beyond the norm, beyond natural means. I think there are acceptable ways to do it, and there are unacceptable ways to do it. This is an unacceptable way.
Yeah.
The acceptable way is actually finding a way to maintain that person. Not necessarily their body, but their actual person. Their soul, quote unquote, for lack of a better term.
Well, I mean, there's a whole discussion on what the soul is.
Yes,
but essentially continuing a single entity that, the philosophical phrase, I think, therefore I am, which actually can think and is not a trained model.
Correct. Yeah, it would be continuing the actual individual's intelligence beyond its body's natural life, but maintaining its actual intelligence, right? Rather than using the term soul, but it's actual intelligence, which is what Altered Carbon does.
Oh, yeah. And obviously with the entity's desire to actually continue to exist instead of being forced to exist.
Correct. Minus the fact if you're a trained killer, apparently.
Wow, I mean, but no one thinks in that movie that it's a good thing.
I mean, it's sentenced to be a hero. Thumbs up.
Yeah, that's a good show too. We'll have to talk about that at some point. I love that show.
Yes, indeed.
Anyways, yeah, so this is awful. We all hate it. Pretty much everyone's going to hate it, except for people that want to make money with no moral or scruples. So hopefully those people are few and far between, and we rise up against them.
Unfortunately, they aren't.
Well, yeah. Anyways, let's get into WoW. All right, independent study. Heru, I feel like there might be something that's occupying your time. Something in the World of Warcraft realm?
It might just be. I definitely haven't put 160 hours into it in the time period that it's been out.
So, like, what, a couple days?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So anyways, I'm gonna start by giving a general overall consensus of how I feel the expansion has gone so far. Now, mind you, there is a ton of content that is yet to release, but we'll get into it further in another 3 weeks when all that content releases.
And by 3 weeks, you mean 2 months?
Nope. I mean 3 weeks. Maybe 4. General consensus, I feel like the game is good. It's in a good place. I feel like a lot of characters are in this weird realm of do a lot of damage during cooldowns, do next to nothing outside of them, which is an actual problem in my opinion. But at the exact same time, I think it's okay. Acceptable with the way that they're trying to move World of Warcraft away from the add-on apocalypse effectively and move into a natural human gameplay loop, which it moved far away from with the development of add-ons, the increasing complexity of classes and rotations and priority systems and things like that. So much so that it got to the point where you basically had to have add-ons tell you that specific things have happened in your rotation or in your priority system that you need to change your thought process and do this thing now. Otherwise, it would just be missed and you would lose a ton of damage. So there's that. Now, I have to say, the dungeons have been interesting because we finally got into Mythic Zeros as of this week on Tuesday. So that was nice. I did manage to get a full round of all 8 done on my Shaman. I got 3 done before this podcast today on my Hunter. And overall, I like the dungeons themselves. I have some complaints, namely about the mechanics with the removal of add-ons. I say that because there are engagement-defining casts that happen with 0 audio cue. Actually 0. Like, imagine, to put it into a game that you understand, imagine Valorant.
Okay.
Specifically the wind chick with the daggers.
Okay.
You remember, she says a voice line that is map wide when she pops her ult, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that everyone knows it's happening.
Imagine that voice line doesn't exist. She comes around a corner and one-shots all 5 of you, right?
That would be absolutely frustrating. That's
what's happening in WoW. Because here's the extent of the actual cues that I get for a cast such as a Fear. There is some glowing happening on the character. The character gets a little bit bigger. The cast bar color is slightly different. Okay, but this is one creature out of anywhere from 1 to 30 in front of me.
Okay.
Okay. 1 to 30 of varying sizes based on type of creature, right? If that's the only creature doing that thing in 30 creatures, there's no way I'm going to notice that. Yes, sure. It is a 3 to 4 second cast. My aim shot is a 2-second cast. Like, the game is slower. And that's a good thing. I think it is honestly a good thing. But they Blizzard has unfortunately gone on and on about how they want the game to be more visually recognizable as to what is going on. And I'm like, grand. Love that. Absolutely think that's amazing. Can you add audio into it, please? Because that's the number one thing that people did when it came to add-ons. An important cast would start. There'd be a notification in your ear because an add-on recognized that cast started in the combat log and warned you.
I mean, those audio cues are always good because there's usually so much stuff happening on screen that it's a secondary option so that you can recognize something that's happening.
Exactly. It's hey, pay attention. It's literally the equivalent of, is it a Zelda thing? The hey, listen?
God, yeah, the fairy Navi or whatever it was.
It's literally that.
Hey, listen. Hey,
so
listen.
That's my biggest thing. And it can be something that is immersive, right? It doesn't have to be an air horn that plays randomly, right? Exactly. It doesn't need to be that. That's the way that we did it because that was the sound bites and the tools that we had access to. But if you wanted to give a voice line to these creatures every single time they start this cast, grand. Love that. If you want to give them literally some kind of auditory chant when they start these casts, I'm fine with that too. If you want to make them sound like a goddamn chainsaw when they start the cast, I'm fine with that. I don't care, but I need an auditory cue. I am an auditory gamer. And I say that, and a lot of people are like, nah, you just think you are. No, I, with my hunter, do not play with guns in particular. Okay? I only play with one type of ranged weapon, and you can transmog them. So, like, the equipped weapon may be a gun, but I can transmog it to a different type of ranged weapon. I only use bows. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, I'm not watching my cast bar. I'm actually listening for the ting of my fucking bowstring. And it sucks. It sucks to me because, like, that's how I've now trained myself to play this character.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of games. Like, even in Counter-Strike, like, it's not real life, but when you get down to, I think it's the last 8 rounds in a magazine for, like, the AK, they literally sound... They have a little extra sound so that you can hear for an auditory means that you are almost to the end of your magazine. Even though you could obviously look at the round count, but that's the point, is you'd have to remove your eyes from the focus, the main part of your screen, which is how you identify targets and hit them, and look over to the corner, which would allow somebody to peek you and take you out. So they give that audio cue so that without removing your focus, you can make a decision, get back into cover, figure out a way, or know that you have to make your shots count. So that type of thing exists so that your focus can remain elsewhere while you're getting this information.
Exactly. Like, auditory cues are a really big thing, and I think largely they fail development-wise on auditory cues. They have improved their visual cues and their visual clarity drastically over the course of the last 3 expansions, and it's continued to improve mostly in Midnight. There's only one thing, actually, and I think this is actually a pretty... Yeah, that's a low number, now that thinking about it. Only one thing that I've really run into that my immediate thought process is that circle needs to be more obvious. And it was in 1 dungeon out of 8, out of dozens of different types of mechanics, dozens of different abilities, all kinds of things, right? This one thing needs to be more obvious. That's my one criticism, right? I'm going to start with time gating. And that's in an MMO and any kind of live service game that has a release schedule, where like it's major content and stuff like that. Generally, things are time gated. It's kind of an accepted fact of MMOs in general, but I think there is some amounts of time gating that is unacceptable, and it's when there are bugs that delay that time gating even further. So something where you should have it by, like, say, week 2, week 3, but because of a bug, you missed out on week 1, so now you get it on week 4 or week 3, depending on the context, right? And I think that these companies need to be more aware of those critical bugs. And that's kind of like the main thing, and I say that because and this will lead me into professions, there's been these items that are incredibly rare, namely under the skinning realm, which is perfect because, hey, I main a hunter. What do you think I do? So there's been, we call them species-specific uncommon, words are hard, uncommon materials, right? And I have a problem with them giving them that uncommon tag because, as everybody knows, common is the most common, uncommon is slightly less common, rare is slightly more uncommon, and epic is the rarest, right? Until you get into legendary, which we don't talk about those days. And my problem with this is when rare materials are more common than uncommon materials. And I say this because of the way that skinning is currently being treated. I don't know if it's a bug. It seems to be partially fixed as of Tuesday. But during the early access stage, it was possible to get rare materials significantly easier than uncommon materials. And when I say significantly easier, I'm talking like 10x, which is insanity. If you're going to give things tags like this, and we're going to expect certain things at these rarity levels, they need to be correct. And this kind of leads me into fishing, because that's the other thing that also kind of ties into skinning now. They've kind of tied them together, which I think is dumb. But there's same thing. Common, uncommon, and rare materials. I have more uncommon fish in my bags than common fish of specific types, right? I think there's like 8 common fish, 8 uncommon, and 8 rare, some stupid numbers, right? There is a common type of fish that is incredibly rare. And I'm talking more rare than all of the freaking rare fish combined. And that's stupid to me. Like, it's a common fish. Give it to me. You know? And it's the, what is it? Arctic wormfish or some stupid thing like that. I can't remember what the hell it's called. I literally sat there and I fished for it for like 4 hours today, and I barely got enough. I was so mad. I was angry. But anyways, the length of time that has been introduced at the beginning of the season or at the beginning of this expansion, so this preseason, is significantly longer than time past, right? We talked about the pre-patch a couple of weeks ago being longer than pre-patches in the past. This preseason is also longer than previous preseasons. Now, I think the reason that they're doing the length increase on both of these is because of the add-ons. And the add-on apocalypse, where they're just nuking everything and making it to where you can't really do as many things with add-ons, and I think that's fine. And the jury's still out, in my opinion, on whether or not this length of time is a good thing. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that it's great because it allows me to play multiple characters and truly get a feel for what I want to do. Granted, the answer is Hunter, unfortunately, because I'm committed to a Mythic Raiding Guild, and that's what I told them I'm going to play, so I'm kind of stuck with that, which is fine. I love Hunter. But like, it lets me play these alts, it lets me play around with professions, it lets me do all kinds of things. It actually let me focus on the story of WoW, regardless of its terrible actual storytelling capabilities. I still got to focus on it because, the characters that are currently being played in this major story are actually some that I care about, namely Illyria Windrunner. Because, surprise, surprise, she's a hunter. So, It's almost
Wait,
like
she's a
I'm a hunter, man. Yeah. That's the whole line of Windrunners is a hunter, believe it or not.
I thought they were fishermen.
Why would they be fishermen? Like, please explain your logic.
Just all the collecting of fish that I keep hearing about.
That's different. You're clearly not paying attention, Plague. I'm gonna need you to get it together.
Fair.
Anyways, continuing on the profession train of thought, they finally removed the reliance on artisans, acuity, metal, moxie, whatever the hell you want to call it, for crafting profession equipment. And I say profession equipment specifically because there now in World of Warcraft, you actually have gear for your professions, which is sick. I actually really like that. I wish they would expand on it further, because currently it is only 3 items instead of the 14 that we have for combat classes. I think you could do with 1 or 2 more. Anyways, in past expansions, you had to make a choice between, do I want crafting or profession equipment, or do I want profession recipes early on, right? Eventually you'd have so much of this artisan's material or currency that you just get everything, right? But early on you had to make the decision of, do you want stronger crafts or do you want more crafts? And the problem that I had with that for the longest time was that it felt bad, because either it's gambling, right? At the end of the day, you pick whether or not you're going to need the more powerful crafts, or whether or not you're going to need a more diverse amount of crafts. And that has kind of been mostly removed, except for now the powerful crafting equipment has been time gated in a different way. With this introduction of the abundance system. It's this like new community style event thing that you run in, you kill a bunch of mobs, they drop a bunch of stuff on the ground as like little bubbles that you can pick up on the ground, and then you deposit them into an altar, which is cool. I think it's an interesting gameplay, but it also gets old really fast. Like the same amount of old that like Temple Runner gets after like 3 playthroughs. You know, it's like at the end of the day, like, yeah, sure, it's brain off, mind numbing. You're just kind of going through the motions, left, right, but it's obnoxious in the way that you're not in danger in any way, shape, or form, despite the fact that there's a ton of combat. It's a constantly changing rotation of which abundance is currently accessible. And then they also time gated it in such a way that you won't get your most powerful, or one of your most powerful pieces of crafting equipment in 2 weeks. You'll get it in 3 weeks. And to be clear, there are 2 professions per character. You need 20 of the fused vitality, or whatever the hell it's called. I don't even remember anymore. Green glowy thing that looks like the old mode of life. Which is funny that's the way I equate it. Man, I'm too old now. That's where I'm going with that one.
I mean, I like it. That's a way that I would equate it.
So anyways, you need 20 of them to craft 1 piece of epic quality profession equipment. Each character has 2 professions and 3 slots in each profession. So that's 3 total weeks, because you only get 8 runs of the abundance per week, which gives you 900 per run. The vitality thing costs 800. This is getting really dumb. Which means you get 9, right? So if they require 20, you get 9 of these per week. It means by By the end of week 2, you have 18. You're 2 away from getting 20. So now you have to wait until the next reset to get your next 2, and then you have to get all the stuff to craft the thing, right? So you're like sitting here and you're like, okay, but I have 6 slots that I want epic profession equipment in. 2.2 weeks per item. 12 weeks? Actually more like 13. 13 weeks before you have max in all three of your or both of your professions, I should say. That's an insane amount of time gating. That's wild to me. I just put that math all together. I knew it instinctively, just like looking at it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But like, that's an insane amount of time gating for a single character to be as powerful as it can be in the crafting realm. 13 weeks. That's wild. Anyways, continuing on, the abundance thing has also been bugged for a week and a half. So you could spend your currency to start the abundance run, and not be able to fucking do anything. So you just lost that currency entirely.
Oh, well, you know why they haven't fixed that bug.
Uh-huh.
Because it only negatively affects the player.
Correct.
If it negatively affected the company's bottom line, then they might fix it.
So the problem is, like, during the early access, the option was available to give the item, like the currency, away and start the event. And you could start the event and you could go in there. You just couldn't pick up any of the little drops that were on the ground. They were just there, but they had no collision effect. So it was bugged in that way. And then today I ran into a bug where I was doing one of the events. I could do the whole thing. I did it all, and I got none of the reward. And I did it twice because I hadn't realized that I didn't get the reward the first time. Because, like, I was just like, oh, I'm just going to send all 8. Let's go. Right? Because it was just, efficiency mindset. Go, go, go. So now I was sitting there and I'm like, I didn't get anything. What the hell? And I'm like, how is this bugged? How are these things a problem? This is a major feature in your new expansion. How is this a bug? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I understand the AAA studios, and we literally just talked about it, have been dropping QA like flies. But holy crap. Outside of the bug stuff, stability has actually been quite high. I think the early access has done wonders for them, in terms of being able to split the player base. You kind of forcibly split the more hardcore audience into the early access because it costs more money. And those of us who are degenerates and actually put way too much time into a video game, are going to spend that money because we want to put more time into the video game. And those who just simply don't care or simply don't have the money, they still purchase the expansion. They just don't spend the extra $30 for the early access. So forcibly splitting your player base has done wonders for their stability, and I think it's fine. The early access doesn't really give us any additional power, because most things aren't even unlocked until the actual release, and it takes 5 hours to reach max level if that's your goal. From like level 80 to level 90, it takes like 5 hours. If you do actually nothing but sit and do the most efficient thing in existence, right? 5 hours. That also means, though, you're skipping all the story. You're not watching any of the cutscenes. You have no idea what's going on. Unga bunga, hit all the things, right? That's basically what you're doing, which is fine. Whatever. Maybe you watch somebody go through the whole story during early access. Grand. I'd rather just do it myself. Yeah, I don't know. I've been enjoying it. Obviously, I always have things to complain about. That's the best part about being a WoW gamer. We can always find something
the best
to complain
part about being a WoW gamer is having things to complain about.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna use your line and go, that's so toxic.
Yes. Yes, it is. The WoW community is pretty toxic. That's true.
That is such a toxic relationship.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The best thing is we get to complain.
The best thing is we get to complain. Yeah, no.
Man.
I mean, the reality is that the reason that I even play World of Warcraft to this day is the challenge, the min-maxy, the theory crafting, and all of that, right? The problem is when things get in the way of that. Those are the things that inevitably end up being complained about. Because if something gets in the way in a video game, you're like, this is dumb, it should just be different. If something gets in the way in like real life or work, you're like, okay, well, there's probably a reason, aka security, safety, health, whatever, right?
Okay, first of all, I'm pretty sure I've heard you in real life go, this is dumb and it should be different. So
yeah. Oh, I absolutely have. But there's usually explanations as to why it is that way.
So you're telling me there's no explanation for why this mechanic is dumb or design choice?
I mean, the explanation is that they intentionally wanted to time gate it, but that's dumb. Especially because there's no fucking catch-up system. So
I mean,
not
wouldn't
only
it be time gated because there's balance thing that they're trying to do.
What's the balance?
I don't know. I'm not the WoW player. You are.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. What's the balance? Because your option is either that you don't want everybody to have it initially, like day one, right? That's
Okay.
fine. I get that. But 13 weeks? That's insane.
Yeah, fair.
If it was like a month, I'd be all like, okay, cool. That makes sense. There's other forms of time gating that are already in place here, right? There's already a set amount of artisans moxie that you can get on a per week basis. So that's already time gated, and each one of the crafts, the epic gear crafts, are 200 artisans moxie to learn. So, like, that's already time gated. Sort of. I think it would be better if you made it to where you can only have a profession on one character out of your entire account, but that's just me. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've done enough ranting at this point. What do you think?
I mean, I could listen to you rant all night. I love when you get on a soapbox. I can feel the passion.
You can feel the passion.
Feel it.
You're killing me, Plague.
Passion.
The passion. Anyways.
I mean, are you sure? You don't have anything else you want to rant about?
All in all, game good. Time gate, not so good. But
that's fair.
I'll deal with it.
Well, I'm sure that you'll have another update for us at some point.
Correct. When Mythic Raid actually releases. I might talk about Heroic Raid when it releases. We'll see. Usually, Heroic Raid is one of those things that, like, you kill it, at least at my level, you kill it in a day or two. So it's not really anything to write home about. Mythic Raid is the thing that we generally spend a lot of time on. So,
I mean, that's fair. I look forward to hearing it.
I know you do.
I do. I love your passions.
I know.
I've always said that it's so much easier to listen to somebody who's passionate about something than it is to listen to somebody just throw numbers at you.
I mean, that's why the best teachers are actually like what they do.
True. And it's why that one guy that puts on a 360 camera and goes and watches trains and is just awed when they go by is somehow a viral sensation.
I didn't even know that, but sure.
Oh, I should show you his videos one time. They're ridiculous. I have no idea why I like watching it, but he's just so happy about the trains. So.
All right.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for this week.
I believe so too.
Alrighty, people. Close your books and pack those bags. That's all we have time for this week. And just keep in mind You know, if you're in that toxic relationship, you can get out of it. You don't have to stay in it. You know, there is such thing as a sunk cost fallacy. So feel free to spread those wings and fly high into new endeavors and adventures. We hope you enjoy your time off and look forward to your participation next time. Peace.
See ya.